Hello, and welcome to another Tuesday night Life Impact with the Doctors. Thank you all for joining. Man, what an awesome time we're going to have tonight. We have a very brief conversation we want to have with you guys. Something very impactful, we think, and we want to share some information with you guys and let you kind of deal with it and process it and kind of see what you think about this information we give you tonight. Say hello, Prophetess.
Hello to everyone. We're excited about tonight's discussion. This is a discussion that we often have a lot of times, and we think it's very relevant, very important, and we trust that it'll be impactful in your life as well. And life is all about getting down to the nitty gritty so that you can take your life and live in the world that you design and the one that you really want to live in.
Yes, absolutely. That's well said, Prophetess.
Yes.
So, hey, we want to just ask you all to go ahead and share. Let everyone know that the doctor's on the air. The numbers are growing. We appreciate it. Let everyone know that we're about to jump into this. We'll give just another couple of seconds. In the meantime, you guys keep the comments coming, say hello, and tell us how y'all were doing today.
All right.
Yes. Thank you for the comments.
Yes. All right. So you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
All right. So tonight's life impact subject is the power of culture. The power of culture. And yes, culture is powerful. The results, the environments, the words, all kinds of things happen as a direct result of culture. So we know and we think and we believe that culture is powerful.
It is. It's very powerful. And tonight we're going to explain just a little bit about why we think it's so powerful. So maybe you'll find this to be true as well.
Yes. So what we want to say first is that culture is a silent controller that has great impact on almost everything we do.
Now that's a statement in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's silent. It's not something that is loud and something that's recognizable all the time, but it's a controller. So think about this. It could be very true that culture is controlling a lot of things in your life without you really paying any attention to it, right? Without you really knowing it's the reason why certain things are. That's why it's so powerful, and that's why we're talking to you about it tonight.
And it also can be the reason why things are not.
Exactly.
Why you don't have some things or things are not like you desire them to be.
Very true.
It could be because of direct influence of the culture, that you are living in and that you've been exposed to. So we're defining culture tonight as a common habitual similarities among groups of people. Common habitual similarities among groups of people.
Now, and that's a Dr. Golliday abbreviated definition. There's a lot of different definitions, but in a nutshell, it really means you kind of grow up learning life in the environment and around the people that you grow up learning life from. It's like you act like the people that you are around, sort of. That's kind of what it is.
And a lot of times, as we grow up and become adults, we try to recreate
what we saw when we were children,
the environments that we were in.
Absolutely.
And inadvertently, we keep living the same lives that have already been lived because of culture.
That's right, because of culture. All right.
So this means you do things. This is in reference to the definition that we gave, that culture is a common habitual similarities among groups of people. This means you do things the way that your surroundings have taught you to do them.
That's right. If you might not even think about this all the time, but why do you do things the way you do? Why do you think the way that you do? Why is your disposition? Why do you take stands on certain things? Well, your environment and surroundings taught you to do that. Yeah, nobody just came out saying, I'm going to do this. No, you got taught just inadvertently and kind of like not consciously how to do things, how to feel about things, how to look at things. It happened to every one of us. So culture has been kind of this silent teacher, this silent developer, and it becomes like a silent controller. So it controls a lot of things.
Like, for example, we even equate value based on what we learned in our culture, what things we consider valuable, what things we don't consider value, how far we think we can get in life. A lot of times those parameters are set because of the culture we grew up in.
Now, that's a great point. Think about it. If you've ever had any limits in your mind, like, oh man, I wish I could have something like that. Or Who are those people that live like that? Well, your culture tells you those people are different from you. They must be somebody special. That's a cultural thing, right? So we don't even realize a lot of times, even the way we view life, our worldview is strictly directly related to the culture that taught us how to look at the world the way that we do.
That's true.
And that's why it's so powerful.
Yeah. And even like if you say, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. Or I can stomach this, but I can't stomach that.
That's all culture.
All those things come as a direct result from culture, especially if you saw your parents live on certain levels, think on certain levels, expose you to certain level things. Those things affect you. And a lot of times you don't know it because you haven't really examined your culture. So no, we're not saying always that culture is negative, but a lot of times it is.
And even if it's good, it's still, what we're trying to show you is that it still can be a controlling factor into a lot of the things in your life.
Yeah.
For example, prophets, I remember when we grew up, there was this thing among young black men, you couldn't say nothing about nobody's mama. You couldn't say nothing about a young black man's mama. Because if you say something about mama, we fight.
Right.
You didn't even like your mama a lot of times at that time. You know what I'm saying? What you fighting for? But culture just taught you, don't let nobody say nothing about your mama.
Yes.
See, so that's what we mean by culture. It teaches you how to behave, how to respond, how to act in certain ways. And it does it so subtly. A lot of times we don't even realize that we got a lot of our behaviors through culture. All right, watch this.
So what we're saying tonight is that the power of culture is that it hides and evades the spotlight in order not to be detected.
Culture does not want you to know that it's behind the scenes pulling strings. That's good right there.
Yeah, it is.
In the providence.
It
doesn't want you to know that it's the power behind the scenes making you think the way you do. Culture wants you to think that this is just you. I am just what I am. Go ahead, Bob.
So it's safe to say that culture aids in the development, establishment, and lifestyle of complacency or comfort zones. Comfort zones really come through culture.
Yes, all of that. All of that is cultural. That's correct.
And if you develop culture zones because you've been cultured to live in comfort zones, then that's why it evades you that this is culture and not something that you should be keeping, but something that you should be examining, especially if you're someplace that you really don't want to be.
That's right. And that's the whole point. Culture is hiding. It does not want you to identify it, because then you'll be able to do some things. And we're going to get into that in just a second. Now watch this.
So think of it. When people think about making changes in their life, how many of them say, I have to go after my culture to change things?
Yeah, see, most people don't even think, when they start thinking about changing things, culture is the last place they look. Wow, think about it. And culture is the driving force behind why they do it the way that they do. So if you don't go after culture, most times you won't get any permanent real change, but that's the last place people look when it comes down for change in their life. You see what I mean? So for example, if a person grew up in a poor culture, right, you may end up just inadvertently being stingy in life, tight. Why?
Cheap.
But cheap. Why? Because you grew up in a poor culture, and you don't even realize that the culture is controlling how you handle money now. And so you could be not enjoying your life because of a culture that you grew up in years ago. And you don't even realize when you want to change your life, I got to go after that culture. I got to get that poverty mentality out of me so that I can enjoy my money, enjoy what I work hard for, enjoy what I go to work for every day, right? So people don't even think about going after the culture. They'll just try to start making changes externally. Yeah, but it's culture.
Yes. So when you go after cultures, when you go after changes externally without examining your culture, when you go to change it, even if you make a few changes, your culture will take you right back to where you already were, the place that you wanted to leave from, because you didn't get to the root of why you were there in the first place, which is a lot of times is the culture, is the reason why we are places that we are. And that if we don't deal with the culture, the way we thought, the things we were exposed to, the lifestyles, the lack, the shortage, the poverty, the dysfunction, whatever it was, if we don't get to the root of those things, those are the things that will keep us in the places that we no longer want to reside.
No longer want to be. That is right. Good, well said, Prophet.
Yes.
Okay.
So, in fact, culture is seldom the object of scrutiny.
Seldom. Very, very seldom do people scrutinize their culture. Do you know, Prophet, watch this. If you have one group of people arguing with another group of people, and both sides are arguing very, very dogmatically, like we know that this is right what we're saying, and the other side is we know we're right in what we're saying. If both of them were to stop and examine their culture, they would find that both of them probably wrong. But nobody ever does. Whenever you see somebody taking a stance and arguing, it means that they're not examining their culture, because their culture could be the reason why they see things the way that they do, but it does not mean that it's right.
Right.
So as you can see, scrutiny is hardly ever put on culture.
Yes, that's
it's
true.
Always placed on something else.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement right there.
It is, because a lot of times, as an African-American woman and growing up in an African-American family, a lot of us have seen our parents sacrifice. We've seen our parents put themselves before us and leave themselves last, and never really a lot of times do things for themselves that they really wanted to do, because they were always putting the family first. Well, that's a culture. But when you get in God and you get in the kingdom, God, when you live by faith, everything can take place. You can get what you want. You can get put first. You can take care of the family. Nobody has to be put last. Nobody has to go without.
Totally different culture.
That's a different culture. And that's what's so powerful about culture, is that you have to begin to examine, why do I think the way that I think? Why do I harp on the things that I harp on? Why do I have a limited scope when it comes to things, thinking that this is all I can do? A lot of times we don't even think that we can do 5 things at a time. We think we have to focus on one thing, because we grew up in cultures where when one thing was a thing, that was the only thing that we could think about. But in the kingdom, we can do as many things as we need to do, and none of the things go lacking, because that's a different culture. So in order to let culture not have power in your life to prevent you from going places that you want to go, you really have to scrutinize it and tell the truth about it, if it's not operating and flowing to help you in an advantageous
way. Well, first
way.
of all, Prophetess, not only is that wonderful what you said, but first of all, you have to actually take the time at some point in your life and take a look at it and tell the truth about why you look at things the way that you do in the first place. Yes. I mean, you got to look at it and say, wait a minute now. I've been looking at things like this for so long, but why?
Right.
I deal with my wife a certain way. Why?
Right.
I deal with my husband a certain way. Why?
Right. I deal with God and church a certain way.
Why do I argue over the stuff that I argue about, as if though this is some big life, situation? Why? You have to at some point examine it and start asking the question, why? Where did this come from? All right, watch this. We're gonna give you exercise on
so we talked about a few seconds ago that in fact culture is seldom the object of scrutiny. So we were scrutinizing it for you. So we want to say, to prove this point, we want to leave you with a challenge.
All right, here's a challenge. We got a challenge for y'all. Y'all up to it? Y'all ready for this? All right, here we go.
So we want you to try to identify the characteristics of your family culture, and then try to identify the quality level of those characteristics.
Wow.
And we want you to be truthful, because when you examine things and you tell the truth, even the Bible says, well, you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. You can actually free yourself from a culture that's no longer working for you when you can tell the truth about it.
Well, first of all, let me say this. I don't believe most people are going to be able to identify it. Because you don't think about it ever. A lot of your ways, you just think it's you. So you might not pin that on culture, but it is. All the ways that you have, you've been taught to act the way that you have. If you were around real ornery, ornery grown-ups that were ornery, and you couldn't have fun with your parents and they were ornery, then you could be ornery too. And your kids trying to tell you that you are, you think you're just most wonderful thing. But they try to tell you, well, we don't like you, Daddy. We don't like you. We don't like the way you act. So what we're saying is, let's see if you can identify. I mean, really, really dig into this. If you take this exercise seriously, it'll bless you. Try to identify your family culture. Why do we do things the way that we do? Why do we make decisions like we do? Why do we handle things the way that we do? Try to identify the culture that taught you how to do these things.
I even heard this. Examine why you handle your money the way that you do.
It's cultural.
It's cultural.
Yes.
The way that you look at money, the way you manage money, the way that you expect, what do you expect money to do for you? All of these things you have to examine.
How much money you expect to have.
Right.
That's cultural.
It's cultural.
Yeah. You got that from somewhere.
How effective are you with the money that you have? Do you use money to make your dreams come true? Do you use money to keep your name good? Do you use money to be a blessing to other people? What's the scope of the things that get done with your money? That's all cultural.
It's all cultural. And after you identify some of these characteristics of your culture, let's say you tell the truth and you find out, well, really, I'm a stingy person. I'm stingy. Well, that'll tell you why you struggle giving.
Yes.
Because really your culture is controlling how much you give. Now, after you identify these characteristics of your culture, we want you to then try to identify the value of them. What quality level of a characteristic is this? And don't say that it's wonderful just because it's you. Really put it on a scale and look at some other characteristics that might be, really take a look at it and say, wow, this one is pretty good, but this is a really low quality characteristic that we have in our family. We offer that challenge to you because we think it's going to be impactful.
Yes.
We think it's going to bless you if you do it.
Yes.
If you do it.
We've done it.
And we always do.
And we do it all the time because we're ever growing and developing and strengthening our family culture so that we can have the best culture because we're in the family of God.
Matter of fact, we spent almost 2 to 3 hours examining the culture of the ministry today. We had a meeting. We talked about the culture of the ministry.
Yes.
We're always doing this because we don't want to assume that every culture that we have came from a good place,
right?
And it's beneficial,
yes,
and it's high quality,
yes.
When a culture is low quality, we want to say that's what it is because it's producing low quality results.
Yes.
Now I just said a thing right there.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I just said a thing right there. Now you ought to really write that down.
Yes, you did.
All right, so we're giving you this challenge. We think it's going to be, what is tonight? Life impact, right?
Life impact.
We want to give you something that impacts your life. So if you take this seriously, this will impact your life. What else, Prophet?
So we wanted you gave you the challenge to identify the characteristics of your family culture. And then we wanted you to try to identify the quality level of those characteristics. And we're saying what you may find.
This is what you're going to find when you do this exercise.
Is that culture is a quiet cell.
Cell, C-E-L-L.
To try to keep
you
in a place.
That's what it is.
That's what culture does.
Culture tries to lock you in a place. That's what it does. You're going to find that out when you really examine your culture. But we got some good news for you, though.
Yes, we over the years ago, we realized the kind of culture we were living in was locking us into poverty, locking us into never experiencing increase and abundance. And so you have to examine this because you could be prospering or making money, but be locked into a poverty culture all at the same time.
At the same
I just said a thing.
Time.
So a lot of times people think because they make money that they are successful and that they prosper, but they don't understand they have a poverty mentality. So even with the money, it doesn't feel any different because the poverty mentality squirts the money down.
It does. It does. I'm telling you, man, this will be so impactful if you do it, because you're going to find out some things about culture. And only when you really understand that the design and the nature of culture is to try to lock you in a place. That's when you'll start dealing with culture the right way. Only when you realize this culture been trying to keep me locked in this place, but I'm not staying here. And so we got some good news for you tonight. Yes. What's the good news, Prophet?
The good news is that culture can be changed.
That's the good news.
That's the good news.
All right. God bless you. That's it. We just wanted to share that with you guys, put you on a mission, give you that assignment, get you listen, we just wanted something thought-provoking. We want you to just think about it.
Yes.
Hey, why do I look at stuff the way that why do I handle stuff? Why do I look at my pastors the way that I do? Why do I look at my church the way that I do? Why do I look at God the way that everything? Just check it out.
Yes.
And see what you come up with. Yes. And if something impactful happens to you, make sure you let us know about it.
All right.
All right.
Well, God bless you.
God bless y'all.
We want you to go with grace. And more importantly, we want to see you prosper.
And we will see you all tomorrow night right here, Lord's will, on Retain to Reign. Go with grace.
Go with grace.